Thank you, councillors. It is 9 o'clock. So while we just get comfortable, I'll just ask you to turn your mobile devices to silent. So thank you, everyone. For now, we're continuing to require pre-registration and limited numbers for COVID-19 guidelines in place, which has all taken place this morning. So welcome everyone to the March 2021 Kempsey Shire Council meeting. Welcome to the community members that we have in the gallery this morning, to our staff and to our media representative from the Macleay, I don't know if it's called the Macleay Argus anymore. I think it is, really. For anyone who is joining us for the first time, our council meetings are open to the public and live streamed to allow people to observe council in the decision-making process. It is a regulation requirement to advise everyone present that your attendance is taken as consent to the possibility that your image and or voice may be recorded and broadcast to the public via our live stream. And any other visual or sound recordings of meetings require prior permission, and the decision to allow must be the unanimous decision of council. Council will break at an approximate time of 10:30 to allow councillors and staff for a short break before we continue. So welcome councillors, the General Manager, our executive team and staff, and welcome to anyone joining the live stream telecast to the March 2021 Ordinary Meeting of Kempsey Shire Council. Just a reminder to councillors that voting will be called for any dissent vote. No dissent vote is the affirmative. Abstaining votes is recorded as a vote against. If there is no dissent vote, the motion will pass unanimously. And councillors, please remember to activate your microphones when you've been acknowledged to speak. We'll start with item number 1, which is the opening prayer. Dear Lord, help us in our deliberations today so that our decision will be for the greater good for the whole of the Kempsey Shire. Amen. Amen. And our acknowledgement of country, and council acknowledges that the meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Dunghutti people. Apologies and applications for a leave of absence by councillors. We have 2 apologies today.
Yep, apologies are from Councillor Shields and Councillor Horval.
Thank you, Councillor McGinn. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Williams. Is there any dissent? There's no dissent. Those apologies have been accepted. Confirmation of minutes. Item number 4.
Move that way, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson.
Second that.
Thank you, Councillor Saul. Any dissent?
Madam Mayor, I move an amendment.
Thank you, Councillor.
That the minutes be confirmed with changes to item 6, items passed by exception, with the minutes to include the staff recommendation, the motion moved by Councillor Patterson and Councillor Saul, which was the staff recommendation, the fact that I withdrew 2 items, being item 9.12 and item 9.13, and then it was resolved as is recorded in the minutes with the vote as it is. I forward a copy of that recommendation to Mr. Thorogood. Or that amendment, sorry, to Mr. Thorogood.
I'd just like to ask the question of the General Manager around this, why this is being brought.
Yeah, what's in the minutes is what we normally record. We don't normally record who withdrew what from that. It's generally a process of councillors pulling them out, and then we actually record the final resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? The amendment has lapsed. We're back to the original motion.
Obviously, the amendment will be recorded. The lapse amendment will be recorded in the minutes.
Correct.
Is there any dissent on the minutes? Thank you, councillors. That has passed. Any disclosures of interest? Councillor Patterson.
Thank
then
you,
I'll
Madam Mayor.
take Councillor Williams.
On 9.1, I just non-pecuniary, non-significant interest of that I have camped at Hathead, Crescent Head, and South West Rocks campsites over the years.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a non-significant non-pecuniary interest in 9.2 plans of management for council managed community crown lands. I'm the president of Macleay Valley Rangers Football Club that occupies the land within the report.
Councillor McGinn.
Non-significant non-pecuniary interest in that in 11.1 legals, I know one of the families involved in one of the matters being considered, and also 9.2 as we rent a riverbank reserve.
And I have a conflict of interest in 9.2, the plans of management, non-significant non-pecuniary, as I own and reside in property that abounds East Kempsey Riverside Reserve. Thank you, councillors. That's the disclosure of interest. We'll move on to item number 6, which
Move
is...
that way, Madam Mayor.
Yeah. Okay. That's been moved by Councillor Saul and seconded by Councillor Patterson. And that what was moved is items to be passed by exception, which is item 8.1, Local Traffic Committee, 9.3, the alteration of additions to educational establishments, 9.4, review of unmaintained council roads, 9.5, fixing country bridges grant, 9.6, proposed formalised cattle crossing at Kempsey Regional Saleyards, 9.7, statement of cash and investments, March 2021, 11.1, legal matters, 11.2, Audit and Risk Committee, February meeting minutes and annual activity reports. Councillors do have the opportunity to ask questions or withdraw. Councillor Morris.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to withdraw item 8.1, 9.4, 9.6, 11.1. Thank you.
So being withdrawn is the Local Traffic Committee, review of unmaintained roads, proposed formalised cattle crossing and legal matters. Do I have any questions on any of the items that are to be passed by exception, which will be 9.3, 9.5, 9.7 and 11.2? Yes, Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. Just on 9.7, cash and investments, just a general question to the Director. Would it be right to say, Director, that the financial position of the council has improved in recent times?
Through you, Madam Mayor. No, I wouldn't necessarily say that, Councillor Baxter. We have made some improvements, so there has been some improvements. The reason for saying no, I guess, is we're still operating in a budget deficit position for the general fund, and as discussed at the briefing last night, and as councillors will see at the April council meeting, we will bring the integrated planning and reporting documents, including the budget and long-term financial plan. We'll still have a budget deficit position for the general fund going forward. We're doing a lot of work, obviously, to address that and improve that, but there's, I guess, still some ways to go. In relation to, I guess, your question, which is around cash and investments, as the report indicates, whilst the balance of our cash and investments has gone up substantially, as the report articulates, that is due to the drawdown of the borrowings that council approved a couple of months ago. So effectively, that's just the borrowings that we've now entered into. That's now sitting in our bank account as we wait to place that either in higher yielding investments or using for funding certain projects.
Thank you.
No other questions. We'll go on to item 8.1, the Local Traffic Committee minutes that was withdrawn.
Madam Mayor,
hang on. Sorry. We have to vote on the items passed by exception. I moved on too quickly. Is there any dissent on the items to be passed by exception? And no more questions. There's no dissent. That's been passed. Thank you, councillors. Now we'll move on to 8.1, which is the Local Traffic Committee minutes, which is the recommendation that council notes the minutes and adopts the recommendation of the Local Traffic Committee meeting held on the 2nd of March 2021.
Madam Mayor, I
Councillor
move that
Morris.
with the addition that council approaches the Local Traffic Committee and requests that they vary the date of the meeting scheduled for the 7th of September, given that technically there will be no councillors elected because it's 3 days after the election and the poll will not have been declared. So they either request that they bring that forward by a week or they push it out by about 2 or 3 weeks so that council can have a duly elected representative at that meeting.
Councillor Williams?
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to make a comment that it does show that I was absent in that meeting, and normally I'm ridiculed for not potentially being able to attend some meetings, but I had an emergency at work, so I was unable. I was on my way and had to attend to the hospital with a client, so I was unable to attend the meeting. So I just wanted to make that public before I was.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. And occasionally things happen. So have we got that amendment?
It's not an amendment, it's a motion.
Sorry, the addition to the recommendation.
So, Madam Mayor, that I on the traffic committee, I don't represent council. I represent the local member.
I know that, but there is still a council representative on it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we
There's no
direct, I
issue.
say that we request they consider moving it so that we can have a duly elected representative.
No,
I'm happy to
thank you,
second that.
Councillor
I'm
McGinn.
sorry. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor McGinn.
Sounds very reasonable.
Is there any dissent?
I have another question as well, if I
Yes, Councillor.
could, Madam Mayor. Item 6.3, damaged traffic islands. The recommendation is that the concern raised by local member be noted and council investigate further to determine appropriate actions. Has anything determination been made on that or any considerations made on that? Because we've got an awful lot of broken medians around town that detract to the appearance of town but are also dangerous that we've been waiting for years now to have some action taken on.
I'll get Mr. Fish, but given the meeting was only held a couple of weeks ago, I doubt there'd been any action just yet, other than we'd have a list of damaged on our assets. Mr. Fish.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, just as per what the General Manager said, we'll obviously look at those locations as relevant and determine what works are required and what potential time frame may be involved, so I can take that on notice.
On that basis, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment, and that is that we add I suppose I don't have to move it as an amendment because seeing I move it, I can just add it, but I'll move it as an amendment that council receive a report in relation to the intended works for the traffic islands at a future council meeting.
So are you moving something that you're requesting council to do or?
I'm requesting that the council staff bring back a report on that item. I'm not requesting that the local traffic committee do.
I understand that, but this is not really business before council. This is the local traffic committee minutes.
Okay, well,
So,
I'll bring it up as a notice of motion at the next meeting then.
That would be more appropriate, Councillor Morris.
Madam Mayor.
Is there you've got a question? I can't see your light. I'm sorry, Councillor.
I just add that when I brought that matter up in the traffic committee, the report was going to come back on the condition of those islands that I requested, and then I believe it was just going to go into council's normal works program.
Thank you, Councillor. Any dissent on the adoption of the local traffic committee minutes with the addition of the consideration of the change of date? There's no dissent. Thank you, councillors. Item 9.1, the McLeod Valley Coast Holiday Parks Annual Licence and Master Plans. There is a recommendation, Councillor Patterson.
I'd like to move that we defer this for 1 month, please. I would
I'll
like
second
that to be the actual motion.
Thank you, councillor. So we have a mover and a seconder for deferment. Do you wish to Councillor Morris,
Madam Mayor, I would like to.
are you speaking to it? Are you changing it?
I would like to move an alternative motion. Now, whether that's considered as an amendment, but the alternative motion is similar to what is there as a staff recommendation. I will forward through my amendment to Mr. Thorogood so he can.
I've got to listen to the amendment. Oh, sorry. Exactly. The motion to defer is procedural, so we do need to deal with that first. Correct. Thank you for your advice. So we need to do with the deferred motion. I don't.
Is it truly procedural, or is it a motion to the item? Madam Mayor, I question that it's procedural. It was a motion to the item. It wasn't a motion prior to the item that we defer item 9.1. It was.
There is
a
no
motion that we defer.
recommendation. Just a moment.
I would see it as a procedural motion. It is actually taking the item off the agenda altogether until the next meeting. I think it's quite clear that it's simply procedural. It's to move it before any debate actually enters into it. So I see it as a procedural motion.
Thank you, and I'll go with the advice that I've been given. So we have a procedural motion to defer item 9.1 for 1 month. Thank you.
Do we speak to it or?
Not a procedural motion. No. We need to vote on it. Is there any dissent on deferring this matter for another month? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. That has passed as a deferred motion. We move on to item 9.2, which is the plans of management for council managed community crown lands. There is a recommendation. Thank you, Councillor McGinn. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Williams. There is a recommendation. Councillor Morris, do you wish to speak?
Just briefly, I'll just
and then I'll take Councillor Morris.
Briefly in support of the motion. The plans of management for the community lands allows Kempsey Shire Council to meet its legislative obligations for the management of Crown reserves that have been classified as being community lands. These plans are extensive. They're to be submitted to the Department of Planning, Industry and Investment. And once they come back, if they haven't been altered, will be placed on public exhibition following any changes. So this is the start of a process, I guess, or partway through a process, and there will be community consultation prior to it, to the plans of management coming back to a future council meeting for consideration and adoption. So I look forward to the recommendation being voted on in support by councillors, and then community feedback once the plans are put on consult, given to the community to consult on. So yeah, thank you very much for all the hard work by the staff that have gone into the preparation of these plans.
Councillor Morris.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to raise a couple of concerns that I've got, and whether that leads to an amendment or not, I'm not sure. If you read the draft plan of management, or council managed Crown Lands plan of management, there's considerable input in there, or considerable discussion in there on page 55, 75, 82, 85 and 95 in relation to, and it basically summarises the concept plans, or any concept plans for the caravan parks that we have just deferred for a month. I believe if we've deferred those plans and they haven't been adopted, those summaries of those actions, which now are no longer adopted actions of council, should be removed from the document before it goes on public exhibition. And it should be noted that there are 10-year plans that are proposed that will be considered at the April council meeting. At the same time, I would like to, when you read it, there's a considerable amount of space dedicated to talking about the caravan parks, but there's not much else on other things, which was alluded to by a member of the public forum yesterday. And I would like to add point 6, and that we review and update the draft council managed Crown Lands Plan of Management provide additional information in relation to the operations and upgrade plans of other licence holders, particularly where they are large licence holders, and we know, council knows that they have plans for such upgrades. The other thing that I found quite strange was that when you look at the Stewart's Point area, there's no mention of the fact that on that village zone, which is where the upgrade work has just been done, that there is actually a hall and a library that council manages. Now that's within that zone, but it's not even mentioned in the summary of what's contained within that area. I believe we need to be looking at reviewing, but at the same time, we need to take out the details in relation to the 10-year concept plans that are embodied within that document prior to it being forwarded to Department of Planning and Industry and Environment, and prior to it being placed on public exhibition. So I would like to move an amendment that that we review and update, as I said, for point 6, to provide additional information in relation to operation upgrade plans for other licence holders.
Councillor Morris, can you talk a bit slower? We can't type that fast, sorry.
That we review, and point 6, that we review and update the draft the draft council managed Crown Lands Plan of Management to provide additional information in relation to the operations and upgrade plans of other licence holders. And that where we've got the comments in the recommendation, which I just need to go to 924. Point 3 is to revise the draft council managed Crown Lands Plan of Management with any direction received. Sorry. Point 1, sorry, update the draft council managed Crown Management Plan of Management for Macleay Valley Coast Holiday Parks and your licence concept plans is resolved. So we haven't resolved that. So point 1 has to be changed because we didn't resolve. So we can't update for something that we resolved today if we've deferred it by a month. And I would suggest that we need to change that to remove any reference to the holiday parks annual licence and concept plans and the 10-year that are currently contained within the council managed Crown Lands Plan of Management. So I move that as an amendment as well.
May I ask a question?
Or should this just be deferred with the remainder?
I'm aware that there's a time schedule required for these plans of management to go to the relevant authorities, but with regards, can we just get some feedback from the general manager there? I'm thinking with the comments about the Crescent Head Club, for example, that could come with the community feedback phase, where they'll be the community's able to input into, their plans. So can we have some feedback from the general manager, please?
In relation to the part from Councillor Morris, including other things and that sort of thing, that we don't perceive that as an issue. We've tried to capture that there in item 6, review and update the council draft plans, providing additional information related to operations, upgrades to plans of other licence holders. That may need a few extra words there to capture everything that the Councillor Morris actually outlined. In relation to item 1, what could be done there is that it could still be worded, because they are certainly draft. They are available to the public, and they could be included in this as a draft, pending the future resolution of council, and noting that they may or may not be changed. So item 1 could be update the draft council managed Crown Land Plans of Management for the Macleay Valley Holiday Parks annual licence content plan as recorded on the agenda item 9.1 of the 16th of March 2021 ordinary council meeting. So it's noting they're not resolved. They were actually included in the agenda. It leaves us open through that consultation process and coming back to council to change that pending what actually comes from the deferral of that item for a month, and it allows us to keep this item on its current time frame to meet the state government requirement of the 30th of June.
Mr. General Manager, can I just make the comment? We need to emphasise quite clearly that What is included there, though, is draft and will be considered by council.
Correct.
And to be perfectly honest, what I hoped to move in 9.1 was not that we defer it, but that we place it on public exhibition in conjunction with this. That way, we would be asking the community to make written representation on that plan. Postponing it by a month doesn't open it up to engagement. It just postpones it. We consider it again next month with not necessarily additional information. Put it on public exhibition in conjunction with this would provide us with the community engagement that we're seeking. But unfortunately, that was rejected because I couldn't even mention it.
So
So do you get,
Last night.
yeah, so number one,
That could be the outcome of the next meeting, so we put it back another 2 months.
that was, I think there will be communication.
yeah, okay. So, no, Mayor, so it's up to Councillor Morris whether the wording I propose he would be happy to include. Otherwise, it is he's actually moved it. There is no seconder at this point. But it's,
Update mine, because I moved the motion to include the words of the general manager as the mover of the original motion. And with 0.6 in it, if that helps the council
So that
to come to a
becomes
resolution.
the original motion.
Yes.
But we've got an amendment which we haven't, that Councillor Morris
Doesn't
has-
seem to have had a seconder to, so I would be happy to change my motion that I have as the mover to the general manager's comments about the draft holiday park.
I'll just go to Councillor Morris and get his comment. Councillor Morris?
on the agenda, yeah.
I don't care what happens, but all I'm saying is that we need to acknowledge we can't update it and say it was adopted
No.
in 0.1 when it wasn't adopted. So we need to change 0.1.
Yeah.
And
So
I want 0.6 added.
Yeah.
Now, how that happens, I don't know, but that is my amendment. If I don't get a seconder, it lapses.
Councillor McGinn is happy to incorporate that into the original motion, and you're happy to accept that.
Yeah, and that gets recorded as an amendment that's moved and it's adopted as being moved into the motion.
Correct.
To the wording of item one would be as per the original item there, except it would have as resolved removed and to be as reported on the agenda item. So it's,
is clearly a draft at this stage.
yes, that's correct.
That's the point.
Yes.
Yep, happy with that.
Yeah, item one actually has update the draft, council, so it's actually draft is included in it. But it's actually as reported, not as resolved.
Can I ask probably question on 9.2? Just on the fees and charges for the annuals. Just on the removal fee for the removal of annuals.
Councillor, point of order, different issue, you can't go back to that.
Plans of management.
We're talking about the plans of management.
Sorry, wrong one.
Wrong one?
Yeah, sorry.
That's the one.
So
you
what we
deferred.
have in front of us now is the amendment that was moved by Councillor Morris, which has been incorporated into the original motion, which was moved by Councillor McGinn and seconded by Councillor Patterson. That council, in accordance with section 3(8), 39, 40 and 40A of the Local Government Act, update the draft council managed Crown Land Plan of Management for the Macleay Valley Coast Parks annual licence and concept plans as reported at agenda item 9.1 of the 16th of March 2021 Ordinary Council meeting. Forward a copy of the draft council managed Crown Land Plan of Management to the New South Wales Department of Planning and Industry and Environment as the landowner prior to the public exhibition. Revise the draft council managed Crown Land Plan of Management with any direction received from the New South Wales Department of Planning, Industry and Environment before placing on public exhibition for a minimum period of 28 days and inviting the public to make submission over a period of 42 days. Hold a public hearing in respect to the draft plan of management given the proposed alterations to the initial assigned categories of some community land, and bring the final version of the draft plan of management, inclusive of any changes made as a result of the community consultation, back to a future council meeting for consideration and adoption, and that we review and update the draft council managed Crown Lands Plan of Management to provide additional information in relation to operations and upgrade plan of other licence holders. Okay, Councillor Morris, you have another question? No. Any dissent? There's no dissent. Thank you. (9.4) Review of unmaintained council roads. Councillor Morris.
I withdrew it because I didn't vote against it. I can't vote against it.
Correct. So I need to move on.
Move that way, Madam Mayor.
Do I have a seconder?
Second that, Madam Mayor.
So it's been moved by Councillor Saul and seconded by Councillor McGinn. Do you wish to speak, Councillor?
No, Madam Mayor, it's a thorough report and we'll leave where it is. Thank you.
Any questions? Any dissent? Thank you, Councillor Morris. (9.6) councillors.
9.6, Madam Mayor, I'm prepared to move the recommendation with the addition to point 2, which reads that the public be notified of the proposal pursuant to the Roads Act, just to expand out which includes placing the proposal on public exhibition for 28 days. The body of the report states that, and I believe that we should add that so that when the community read the resolution of council, they realise it will be put on public exhibition. They don't have to go pouring through the Roads Act to find that out.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any dissent? Any questions? Thank you, councillors. That's been passed. Move to item 10.1, which is on page 48. Thank you, Councillor Morris. Councillor Morris,
I move the recommendation as is written, that council request the local traffic committee to undertake a formal review of the speed limit for Crescent Head Road.
do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Councillor Morris.
Question? Unless, another question?
No, I'll let Councillor Morris speak first.
Madam Mayor, I move this motion on the basis that at a community meeting there was a strong consideration made by a reasonable number of people at the meeting that they believed that there were safety hazards, particularly at the intersection of Maria River Road and Crescent Head Road, and that there were concerns along other sections of the road. I know that council, or local traffic committee, has been looking at this matter for a number of years and have had a piecemeal approach with some sections being reviewed. I believe it is time that we did a complete review of the entire length of the road and have a holistic look at it. It was requested by the General Manager that I consider withdrawing it. I sought guidance from the community members that I was speaking with, and they said that they would prefer it to be processed. On that basis, I put this recommendation up. It would probably be good to have a review of all our regional roads so we've got consistency in their assessments, but I'm quite happy just to leave it at Crescent Head Road at this stage. I asked my councillors to support it. It's not mandating what should happen or where it should happen. It's just asking for a formal review for the entire length of the road in a holistic manner.
Question?
Yes, Councillor McGinn.
Just asking whoever the relevant director or general manager through you, what would be the cost, I guess, to Director Fish of such a review? And to the general manager, what item in the operating plan will we remove because we were putting this in as a new item?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just in relation to the second point, it's actually a request to the local traffic committee, so it won't actually impact council staff. in that way. It's actually up to the traffic committee to make a decision whether they were to do that or not. Mr. Fish might have a bit of an idea of what's actually involved in the review, giving his background in that area.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. From a council cost side of things, in terms of undertaking the review, it's more of the administrative side of things in administering the traffic committee minutes, etc. The item is obviously already planned to be on the next meeting agenda with regard to the length between Barangi Road and Marai River Road. So there was already an item to be reported in that regard. So any additional costs from that administrative side of things is minimal to nil. Ultimately, Transport for New South Wales would undertake the review. Really the main staff time involved in undertaking that assessment is via them. If there's subsequently some changes to be made, there's obviously costs and implementation related to the amendment of signage and whatever may came of it. Certainly the previous assessments that have occurred, the last one was back in 2018, there were some signage amendments to be made. A further review may identify some further signage changes to be done.
I just got a question. At the traffic committee, the review that is being undertaken is not of the whole Crescent Head Road. Is that correct?
Yes, through Madam Mayor, that's correct. The section that was reported to the December 2020 traffic committee meeting related to the length between Barangi Road and Marai River Road, that was effectively deferred, subject to some further review of previous measures to be put in place. Once they're fully in place, then it'll be reported back to the traffic committee, which is currently planned for the next meeting.
And did that request to the traffic committee come from community?
Yes, there's been, as you'll see in the General Manager's comment there, the matter of speed limits on Crescent Head Road has been before the committee a few times in recent years, and typically that is related to requests from the community. And even the March 2018 review was as a result of the Crescent Head Resident and Ratepayers Association requesting a review in the vicinity of Marai River Road.
So just so I've got this clear, the community have asked the traffic committee for the review to Barangi River and Marai River Road, but the recommendation is for the whole of the Crescent Head Road. What implication would that be in the process of length of time to do the review, and would that hold up what the community have asked for, which is not the whole of Crescent Head Road, only part of Crescent Head Road?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we've certainly received specific requests related to the Barangi Road to Marai River Road. Councillor Morris was obviously in attendance at the recent ratepayers meeting where seemingly the full length has been discussed. I can't obviously speak for Councillor Morris in that regard, but based on what's in the notice of motion, I expect that was what was discussed. Yeah, so yeah, certainly we've had specific representations around that particular length, and that has been the focus of what the traffic committee's considerations have been.
So the ratepayers in there now wanting to expand it, instead of using their first process, which was to go straight to the local traffic committee, have decided that this is a better way to go, or a different alternative. I don't quite understand, but that would seem that the Ratepayers Association, which is quite fair enough, now want to expand that study to have all of Crescent Head Road. My concern is, why didn't they just go straight to the local traffic committee and probably speed up the process? But anyway, Councillor Patterson.
Just as a member of the traffic committee, Madam Mayor, I was on the committee when the whole of the road previously came up, that the few signs were changed. Recently brought up at the traffic committee about the intersection of Marai River Road and Crescent Head Road, about the ongoing development down there, and that's something that the committee is looking at the moment, but unfortunately has to be it has to be advertised or has to be known to the ratepayers and to the public that the Service New South Wales they set the speed limits for the roads. We can request, but when the roads are seen to be 100 km/h zoning, the traffic committee can't have anything to do with that. It's totally up to Service New South Wales. So, but I just want to let everyone know that that is being looked at, the section between Barangi Road and Marai River Road at the moment.
So can I just clarify, in the past, the traffic committee have looked at other parts of Crescent Head Road in the recent times? Thank you.
While I've been on the committee, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Baxter.
I think that's the point, Chair, to answer your question. Councillor Patterson's right. It's all very well for the traffic committee to recommend reduced speed limits and change the safety situation there, but then it's up to New South Wales, Transport New South Wales. So I think Councillor Morris's point is that the council, need to make it much more important than it seems to have been in previous requests, because they have not changed the speed limit. So I think it's just a matter of making it more important than it was.
Madam Mayor, can I just highlight that what's being recommended through the notice motion is the council request the local traffic committee to undertake the formal review. It will then be a decision of the traffic committee whether they do or do not do that. So we're not actually directing them to do it. It'll still be their decision whether they do or do not, or whether they continue on with the review that they're doing currently, and then subsequently look at other areas. But it is just a request that they look at potentially taking that review.
Councillor Williams.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to make a quick comment that I'm also on the traffic committee, but through discussion in the traffic committee about the current review that's happening at the moment, there was some comments that, you know, it's highly unlikely that, based on the statistics and the condition of the road and all the rest of it, that potentially, and it's highly unlikely, but it's possible that due to crash statistics and fatalities on that road, that it will more than likely stay 100 km/h, based on previous reviews of other roads that are similar. So I'm not saying it's not possible, but that was part of the talk in there, and it's already been reviewed and kept at 100 as well. So just thought I'd mention that. It's very unlikely, but possible.
Madam Mayor, can I make one more comment?
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, just another comment. And the direction that I was trying to lead, well, in the traffic committee, is that we'll get to a stage where the speed limit, let's just say, it may not be reduced, but as a member of the traffic committee, I believe that the intersection of Marai River Road and Crescent Head Road needs to be looked at, not a speed review, but needs to be looked at it as design review, that possibly we could get something that we could put to the state government to look possibly for funding under a safety issue.
Okay, well, we've really gone away from speakers for or against at this point.
Question, that's all.
A question. Councillor Morris has his light on, but it's his motion. I don't know whether he wants to speak for it, against it, or ask a question. He wouldn't be speaking against it.
I was going to close debate.
Close debate. I'll take the question from Councillor Morris.
Well, Councillor Saul.
Councillor Saul.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, with that discussion we've had earlier, and with the traffic committee considering things, does it negate this motion because it's already actually in place? To the GM, perhaps?
Through Madam Mayor, what's being considered currently is a section of the road from Barangi Road to Marai River Road. What is in Councillor Morris's notice of motion is for the entire length of the road, so it is different.
Is there any other speakers for or against, or any other questions? Do we want to speak?
Wouldn't be light on if it didn't.
Thank you, Councillor Morris.
Madam Mayor, I close debate by saying that the matter came up at the ratepayers meeting. I discussed it with the community, some community members after the ratepayers meeting. They expressed a desire to go down this path because they felt that the previous path they hadn't had results in or haven't had recent feedback on the matter. I explained that it's Services New South or Traffic for New South Wales that makes the decision, and the Traffic Committee acts on their decision. But it would need to be the Traffic Committee that would request them to undertake the review. I advise them that they can put in a public submission or an individual private submission, which they knew, but they asked me to proceed with this approach. I explained it could be a double-edged sword. If councillors don't believe it's worthwhile requesting for the review, it could go against the review. It shouldn't, but it could. And equally, if council supports it, it might seem that the council would prefer a review to be undertaken. So I explained all those circumstances. All I do is ask my councillors if they believe that a review needs to be considered for that road, and which is expressed by the community that they support the recommendation.
Thank you, councillors. That closes debate. Any dissent on the recommendation? 1, 2, 3. It passes. Questions on notice? Councillor Saul.
Madam Mayor, has any consideration been given to the bus parking in Cyrus Saul for further relocation?
Next question.
Second question, Madam Mayor, is will council rangers be patrolling the Clyde Street car park to ensure sufficient turnover of vehicles? Thank you.
Councillor Baxter. Councillor Morris.
Given that it has been confirmed by way of the question.
Is your microphone?
Councillor Morris, your microphone, please.
I'm used to not having to turn it on because at home it just comes through the. Given that it has been confirmed by way of the response to question 4 from myself, as included in the agenda for today's meeting, the delegates' report will be submitted in relation to the Government New South Wales conference, which was conducted online on the 23rd of November 2021. When will this report be presented to Council? Question 2, has Council processed any planning proposals in the New South Wales State Government e-planning digital services portal? Question 3, if the answer to 2 is no, when does Council anticipate that it will be processing planning proposals within the New South Wales State Government e-planning digital services portal? Why does Council's development applications public register generally not have any documents associated with the subject application? And when it does, it is generally only the conditions of consent. Question 5, are documentation in relation to development applications available on other locations within Council's website? Or if the community wishes to view such documents, what is the process for them to access these documents? Question 6, has the information contained within Council's website been reviewed for currency or accuracy as the updated website is being implemented? Question 7, Silverwater Road has sections of Council Road that are maintained and unmaintained and Crown Road. What is the length of each section of road? Question 8, how many dwellings are on each section of Silverwater Road? And question 9, when did these dwellings receive development approval from Council?
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just the one question. What was the cause of the road failure in Gowings Hill Road in the recently sealed section near the car track? Thank you.
Councillor McGinn. Councillor Williams. I have 2 questions. Can Council have an update on the status of the second bridge, the Southwest Bridge project? And we've had an announcement that we've received funding for the Everyone Can Play at Hat Head reserve. from the state government of 107,000 or thereabouts. Is that a co-contribution grant, or is that just a one-off grant that we don't have to co-contribute to?
Madam Mayor, could you add another part to your question?
Yes, certainly.
About the shelter shed, perhaps, please.
Oh, and if a shelter shed is in, and what's covered in the grant? Yes.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. I meant to do that in the question.
I was going to ask a question, I thought, no, I'll let you do that for me. So there you are.
So that takes care of our questions on notice, and we now move into confidential. Do I have a motion to move into confidential?
Move that way, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson, and seconded by Councillor Saul. Everyone agrees that we move into confidential, and I now ask that the people that are in the gallery and our media representatives to leave the chambers. Thank you, everyone.
In relation to the matter heard in closed session, item 11.1 legal matters, council resolves that the information be noted.
That concludes the March meeting of Kempsey Shire Council. Thank you, councillors. Thank you,